Blog Talk Radio.
Today is Wednesday, January 13th, 2021, and this is Foxology. I am Silver Ray Fox, your host. Happy Hump Day, and welcome to my place. And what a lovely place it is. If you could see inside my head and in my heart, you know that it's filled with beautiful purpose and plans and power, too. I am fulfilling my calling to provide inspiration and motivation, empowerment to you all that stuff, among other things, some education and guidance, enlightenment, a little bit of excitement now and then. Well, it's always exciting as far as I'm concerned. But I guess you say, how can all of that be happening at one Foxology way? Well, many who have discovered this address already know there is some good stuff going on here. I promise you, I will never, ever waste your time. I plan a takeaway with every show that I produce and present, and you all know that if you've been listening. And, well, if there is a reason you didn't like it here, I pray that just isn't so. If you didn't get a takeaway from the takeaway, please be a kind soul, madam or sir, and give it to somebody else who may need it, because I am here anytime, any day, 24/7. You can come on by and see what is going on at Foxology. Well, you know what else is going on today? I have a very special guest, a VIP in our church world and ministry world. She's a Houstonian, where she co-leads the St. John's Church along with her husband. She's a dynamic speaker, author, spiritual advisor, and director, and most recently released a new book and course, Learning to Be, Finding Your Center After the Bottom Falls Out. You know that's a message for the world right now. She is Pastor Juanita Rasmus, and she is in the Foxology spotlight today. Oh, wow. Welcome, Juanita.
Thank you so much. What a joy to be with you today.
Oh, I feel the same way. Just very, very excited to talk with you. Loving the title of your book and your course, and there's a word that's so necessary for people right now. And I know, even though one experience can happen to one somebody, it can bless the masses. So I'm just really believing that the things that you'll share today and those things in your book and your course are truly going to be uplifting and helpful to so many. So let's kind of go ahead and get started.
All right.
Let's get started. I have to tell you something. You probably don't know or remember this, and we can probably address it later, but I tell you, your ministry with your husband has just expanded and grown so wonderfully, and you both have aged so beautifully. I tell you, you know how I know? Because when you guys were first coming out of gates, I was in your services quite a few times.
What?
So,
you're kidding.
Yes, indeed. I am not.
Well, hey, I'm glad to make the connection again.
Yeah, so am I. So am I. So much has happened since then. But I wanted to share that little bit of history with you. But let's talk about your backstory before we get to your current story.
Sure.
I mentioned about you guys coming out of the gate. That was a lot of years ago. But why don't you start back there?
Almost 30 years ago.
Honey I was going to say, you and your honey been together for quite a while now and got that church launched. So let's talk about that. Would you go back there for me and come on up to 2021?
Be happy to. Well, about 29 years ago, we were members at Windsor Village United Methodist Church. Our pastor there is Kirby John Caldwell, and my husband and I were sensing a call to ministry. We were engaged in ministry at Windsor Village, but as lay people, we weren't in pastoral leadership or anything. And yet both of us were sensing that God was calling us into urban ministry, into downtown Houston. We didn't have a clue. We didn't know what that meant, what it would look like. And then one day, Kirby John called my husband, who was a real estate broker at the time and handled Kirby John's real estate, and asked him, would he go downtown and look at this church that the denomination was thinking about passing over to us, or in other words, putting it under Kirby John's leadership. And so Rudy went downtown, and he called me on his cell phone when he got there. He said, baby, this is the place. This is the place where we're supposed to be. And it was, as they say, off and running at that point. So we started with 9 members. We realized very clearly and quickly that we were being called to minister to the least, the last, the lost, the left behind. We literally, Silver Ray had to step over. And if you were there, you remember those days. We literally had to step over men and women who were sleeping in the doorway of the church, who were homeless, because St. John's, the building, had become a place where they could find refuge, that there was a measure of safety in downtown Houston. And so we literally started by providing meals inside the sanctuary we started providing the meals outside, because it started in the summer, September of 92. And when we got our first rain, we said, hey, wait a minute, we still got to serve the people, so what are we going to do? So we moved them into the sanctuary, and we began to set up a buffet line, if you will, inside the sanctuary. And we did that for probably 15 years or so, providing meals inside the sanctuary to the homeless community. But then the next phase began when the recovery community heard about St. John's, heard about the fact that we weren't just a yacht club, that we were a lighthouse. And they found it as a place of authenticity where they could connect with their spirituality. And so that grew another wave of people who came to the church looking for refuge, spiritual refuge. And so from there, we realized we continued to provide services to the homeless community. And as we continued to be in this work, we realized, what's the difference between a person who's homeless and a person who's not homeless? And the difference is a key to sticking a lock to open a door into your own housing. And so we developed Timonos Housing, CDC, and Timonos first apartment complex was a collaboration between Tina Knowles, Beyonce's mom, and so we started with our first housing complex, which is in the second block from the church, and then from there we developed our second housing complex, and so we've got about $30 million of housing for formerly homeless individuals who had been sleeping under the bridge in many cases that runs in Houston. There's a bridge called the Pierce Elevated, and they had been sleeping under that bridge, which is adjacent to the church. So, you say bring you up to current. Let me bring you up to the current. With COVID-19, we are now serving about 2,000 families a week, groceries.
That's amazing.
We converted the Knowles Rowland Center for Youth, which was our youth gymnasium. We converted that into a warehouse, and so weekly families line up as early as 6 in the morning for a 9 a.m. distribution of food that usually ends around 11 o'clock, 11:30 in the mornings on Wednesdays. And these are new model cars. These are families who would not have ever imagined themselves having to receive food. But because of COVID-19 and because of all the implications of the leadership that we have been living under for the past 4 years, many are suffering. And St. John's, the Bread of Life, and Timonos CDC continues to step in that place of offering hope to people who need hope in desperate times, difficult times.
I really do remember those beginnings. I found myself really fascinated with what you all were doing for the homeless, and I don't think you mentioned some of that. I think you guys were doing haircuts and other things that I just thought, try to make somebody feel valued when they're at their lowest point. Exactly. And I just found that to be so fascinating, and I think you probably were one of the leaders in that area for doing the things that you were doing for the homeless.
And sadly,
at that
in
time.
some ways, we still are. Which is sad. That's a sad commentary. That we're still, in many ways, a leader in this area, especially as it relates to the African American church. I mean, the reality is, I don't think there's a church in our community that couldn't serve as a lighthouse during these difficult times.
Right. Well, I'm so glad to know that you guys are keeping up that great work and that you are such a beacon light there, and hopefully you will inspire others to do, even a little. A little can mean a lot to a few people. So that is just absolutely wonderful that you're continuing to do such a great work for the Houston community, especially as big as Houston is. I tell you, it's amazing.
Yes, indeed.
Well, that can kind of segue us up to where you are right now. Out of all of that story, we know that took a lot of grinding, a lot of work, a lot of prayer, a lot of push. I know that. And I think that some of that might be the inspiration for the writing of Learning to Be. So why don't you tell us about... Yeah, I know. So why don't you tell us that side of things and how it led to your new book and course.
Well, let me tell you, when Rudy and I started St. John's, our girls were in elementary school, and about 7 years into our ministry, we started with 9 members, and by 7 years, we had 3,500 members, and so the congregation was growing rapidly. And Rudy and I had not been pastors before, and so we didn't really have a real sense of what the cost, if you will, of ministry was. We didn't have a real sense about the need to care for ourselves mentally and emotionally. We both came with a background of entrepreneurship in our families, and so we knew how to hustle and grind. And the challenge with that, I mean, it was a good thing in the beginning because, you know, it meant that any particular Sunday, well, we could go from unplugging a toilet to then washing our hands and running to the pulpit to go preach, you know. So it meant you did everything in the way that many entrepreneurs today understand doing everything it takes to make your business work, right? And so in that regard, we were well suited for the work because we didn't have any ideas about what it should look like or what it shouldn't look like. We just knew that we just had to do the next right thing whenever something showed up, whether it was a challenge or a crisis. And, you know, sometimes crises become opportunities. And so we just kept moving, kept doing what seemed to be the next right thing. Well, 7 years in, at 3,500 members, basically Rudy and I and the secretary were on staff at that point. And one particular morning, in August the 27th, I got up, fixed breakfast because our lives were so busy and so full, Silver, that, you know, the only meal we were assured we were going to have together was breakfast, right? And so I tried to make sure breakfast was special. I prepared breakfast that morning. And when we finished, my husband said, "Baby, would you like me to take the girls to school?" And I said, "Sure." And I laughed and said, "Where I can put my makeup on in the bathroom mirror instead of the rearview mirror of the car," right? Like all of us know what that's like. Who's ever had to get somewhere and you're trying to multitask, right? And so I kissed them goodbye. They left out the door. I went into the bathroom to finish my makeup, and all of a sudden I just felt sick. I couldn't even explain it. This wave of feeling drained. I said to some folks that it felt like I've had the flu before, and it felt like when you get hit with the flu, not when the flu just gradually eases up on you, but when you get hit with it, all right? All of a sudden, I felt as though every nerve in my body was popping. And I used the analogy of a package of dry spaghetti. and you're holding it in both of your hands and applying pressure on both ends of that spaghetti. And if the bundle isn't too big, if you apply enough pressure, you'll just begin to see each of those pieces of spaghetti pop, right? My nerves felt like that. And so I called my secretary at the church, and I said, I'm not feeling well. I think maybe I've just been moving around too much this morning. And so I said, could you reschedule my morning appointments? And I'm going to lay down. I think I could probably come in at noon. Maybe I just need to rest for a little bit. And so I laid down, hung up the phone, and then laid down, and then saw myself pick the phone up again, hit redial, and call her. It was almost like an out-of-body experience, Silva. And I said to her, I don't know when I'm coming in. I don't know if I'm ever coming back. I'm going to take a sabbatical or a medical leave or something. And then I hung up the phone, got in the bed, proceeded to sleep 18 to 20 hours a day for months. After about the second week of that, my husband said, baby, something is wrong. I think you should see a doctor. And so I went to see my primary care physician, and she ran a battery of blood tests, and she ruled out diabetes and hypothyroidism, other things that might have contributed to this overwhelming exhaustion and fatigue that I was experiencing. Even this sense of lethargy. I couldn't read during those times. My ability to focus was just like null and void. I had no affect. Nothing that used to make me laugh made me laugh anymore. And so then after she ruled everything out, she said, Ms. Rasmus, I think you need to go and see a psychiatrist. And so I did. I went to see an African-American female psychiatrist who was in practice here in Houston at the time. And when I went to see her, she said, after our session, she said, well, Ms. Rasmus, I believe that we would diagnose you as having had a major depressive episode. And I looked at her because I'd never heard that term before, and I said, well, is that a nervous breakdown? And she kind of sat up in her chair, and she looked at me and said, well, there's no such thing as a nervous breakdown in the DSM-4. Well, the DSM-4 is the diagnostic statistical manual that psychiatrists use to determine what mental or to label mental health challenges, right? And so when she said it wasn't in the DSM-4, I was kind of like, okay, that don't mean nothing to me because everything I'm feeling says this feels like a nervous breakdown. My grandmama wouldn't have called it a major depressive episode. She would have just said, baby, you had a nervous breakdown. And so that's exactly what it was. And we can use the technical names, of course. That makes a lot of sense to do so. But the reality was there were a number of things that had contributed to my not being able to get out of bed. One is getting to the end of a narrative, the story I had been telling myself about my life, and that story didn't work anymore. You see, Silver, I had, since I was a little girl, been saying to myself, I want to be a good little girl when I grow up. I want to follow all the rules. And it was just part of my nature in many ways to follow the rules, to be the teacher's pet, to work hard, to not just bring home an A, but bring home the A plus. And all of that kind of striving and pressing and living my life for other people to affirm me, give me a pat on the back, a trophy, or an award. And the beautiful thing, I didn't see it at the time, needless to say, but the beautiful gift out of that dark experience of my life was to realize that I'm already approved of, that I'm already accepted, that I don't need anybody else to affirm me. I affirm myself. And the Spirit of God that breathes me when I'm asleep at night affirms me. And so that was one of the big lessons, is that the story that I have been telling myself and my longing for other people to pat me on the back, to praise me, to, like a puppy, pat me on the head and say, oh, what a good dog are you. And that was my addiction. And so I realized that I had a recovery journey ahead of me. And so in many ways, I'm grateful for the crash. I wouldn't have said it at the time, but I've learned so much about me. I've learned so much about the belief system that I had. You see, when you live your life wanting other people's acceptance and approval, when you live your life believing that it's rules that are more important than relationship, then you set yourself up to become very judgmental. Because if you're good, then that means somebody's got to be bad. And so everything becomes dualistic, good, bad, rich, poor, white, black. And if you notice in our nation right now, that's at the basis of what allowed people to storm the Capitol. It's because they felt as though life could either be win or lose. Right. And so that kind of dualistic thinking is limiting. It boxes us in. It doesn't invite us to look for creative ways of being. It doesn't invite us to look for our most expansive way of living in the world and showing up in the world. And it doesn't allow our soul to breathe, because it's all based on external activity. What I've learned is that by taking time to learn to be myself authentically, to get to know who Juanita really is, to know what gives me life, to know what takes life from me, to notice what I'm noticing about my life, and then to do more of what gives me life. And Silver, you and I are at a mature enough age to know what doesn't give us life and to stop doing the things that don't give us life.
You know what's wonderful about what you said? That is really quite a story. To come to that point is such a beautiful place, and I'm so glad you explained it so thoroughly, because I think we're in a world now, especially with all the social media activity, that people are making efforts to do just that, show up and shine and be affirmed, and, you know, all of the things that you mentioned. And it positions them, you know, visually for us to, you know, get excited about and, you know, praise and all of that. But then when you lie down at night, or you go back in your living room or in your kitchen, and you realize that that's some hard upkeep.
Yeah.
It is. It's exciting to unlearn that and find the truth about who you are, your worthiness and your value and your importance was there all the time. You just had, you know, you were doing it in the wrong way. So that's very, very awesome story. I suppose that the recovery journey took and your road to, you know, that true self-discovery took a little while, huh?
It did. I say that it took about 3 years. In reality, it took longer than that, because you discover at different levels. I think the more open you are to transformation, you're always learning. You know, in the scripture it says every round goes higher and higher. And I think what the scripture is alluding to is what we now call spiral dynamics, understanding that my low point right now my low point is about, or my high point even right now is about to become my low point as I learn to grow, as I stay open to how the Spirit is guiding and inviting me to recognize truth in my own life, to recognize what about my experiences is trying to invite me into a more meaningful life, that my life cannot be summed up by the receipts for the stuff I paid for. It's not summed up by the car I drive or the house I live in.
Right. Well, in your book and in your course, I know you've taken the greater nuggets and you're using them to share with other people on a similar type of journey. Your subtitle says, you know, after the bottom falls out. And certainly your story is one, but we know there's a gazillion other types of bottoms falling out of people's lives. So why don't you share a couple of the important, well, it's all important, but a couple of the nuggets that people can expect to read about. Just a couple of things that might be critical. There may be somebody listening who just feels like they just want to, cave in, give up.
Sure.
Call for heaven
and
to
this
open
book
up the
is
door.
for that person. Absolutely. This book is for that person. Yeah. What I've come to realize, Silver, and this is probably, I do a TED Talk that's on TED.com under my name, Juanita Rasmus. And in that talk, and this is to show you how sometimes, as long as we'll stay open, we'll get deeper revelation. I did that TED Talk 2 years ago, and in it came to me as I was speaking that often when we experience the bottom falling out in our life, and it could be a mental health diagnosis like mine, it could be a divorce, it could be a business that's not doing well, that's struggling, it could be a relationship matter that's struggling, a divorce, it could be a death, some devastation, some way that you didn't expect to be where you are. Like the people who are in line with us on Wednesdays getting groceries put in the trunk of their car, who were people who have been working at the industries that are in many cases have closed and been challenged because of the pandemic. Those people did not expect that the bottom would fall out of their life, that they would use up all of their savings. And so when you find your place in that place, yourself in that place, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, relationally, vocationally, then one of the questions we have to, or one of the things we have to do is to pay attention to how pain is speaking to us. What most of us want to do, I've seen it a lot as a pastor. I've been pastoring almost 30 years now. People who get a divorce, all they want to do is get past it. I just want to get past it. I just want to get this behind me and move on, right? Well, often the invitation is for us to sit and be with it. To sit and be with, what am I feeling? What have I been believing about myself? What have I been believing about the decisions I made, the choices I made? What is it true what I've been believing about myself, that I really need other people to affirm me, or that I really need or have this belief that I'm not good enough, or have this belief that life just isn't working in my favor? All the ways that we come up with these notions about what our lives are really about when we get down to the nitty-gritty, right? Or feeling as though it's just not going to happen for me. It happens for everybody else, but it just doesn't happen for me. People who, when we boil all that down, we boil it down to levels of consciousness, shame, emotions, guilt, apathy, that sense of helplessness and hopelessness, or grief, regret, depression, and sadness, or fear, worry, and anxiety, or even our insatiable lust, our desires that we just can't seem to satisfy, our greed, our anger, our pride, right, dependent on external circumstances and conditions, and then those things get pulled from under our feet. The rug gets pulled from under our feet, and then we want to run, and that's normal because the autonomic nervous system has a side of it that when we find ourselves in crisis, it causes us to want to it's flight, run away, freeze, be paralyzed, right? And so the reality is we have to ask ourselves, okay, wait a minute. In the midst of this, what if I don't run away? What if I turn and speak to this devastating thing and ask it, what are you here to teach me? What am I supposed to learn from you? Socrates said that the unexamined life is not worth living. And so I invite people to use a practice called the Examine, EXAMEN. You see, our lives I think they serve us better if we'll do the examine every day instead of waiting till a crisis and then saying, what went wrong? What did I do wrong? What was my belief about myself? What happened here, right? Okay? If we'll do the examine a little every day, then we can notice what we're noticing. We can pay attention, and we can see how life is trying to speak to us, how life is inviting us into new realities, new ways of thinking and being. So can I share the examine with you?
Sure.
Okay. So at the end of the day, the examine invites us to get quiet. And so what I usually do is invite people to take some deep breaths in through their nose, and we can do that now together, and then out through your mouth like you're blowing through a straw. And so you keep breathing that way for just a couple of minutes to settle yourself, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then you invite the spirit within you to review your day, and you look for all the places where you were able to give and to receive love. Another way of saying it is you look for what gave you life. You look for moments of consolation, moments where you felt connected, where you felt alive, and where you felt a part of the world and the universe, a part of yourself, a part of God. Another way I put that is that you felt that life was worth living, right? And so you review those places. You start with the beginning of the day, and you just kind of go over your day and see all the places love showed up for you. See all the places where life was showing up for you, where you had a sense of belonging. And then you give thanks for seeing them. Okay? Now here's the second part.
I don't think...
Yes.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, the second part is that you ask, okay, so where in my day did I not give and receive love? Where was the spots where I just didn't have it to give, or that person got on my last nerve, or I felt drained. I felt life draining out of me, or I felt the least sense of belonging to myself or to others, to God or to the universe. And then you look at those as well. And then you ask yourself, can I do that differently tomorrow? Might I respond differently tomorrow? But you give thanks for seeing what you see. Then at the end of the examine practice, you continue to breathe. You give God thanks for showing you what gave you life. Thank you for showing me what took life from me, what drained me. And then you make up your mind that the next day you'll do more of what gave you life and less of the things that didn't.
That's a wonderful practice. And I certainly agree with you. And for people who don't practice the breathing exercise and how amazing that works, that would be a really good start, even if you can't get to the point yet where you can filter all of the things that you just said. You can start practicing that breathing first. It brings you into a really wonderful space that you can think clearer and better. And so I'm glad you shared that. I'd like to ask you a question. You when you experienced the pivotal point in your life and what you call the breakdown, it hit you. And I'm assuming that was your first realization, at least to your understanding at that moment. But if you were to look back, and I'm asking this for people who are listening, because so many people are pushing hard right now. It's kind of like the thing: if you're not doing that, you don't feel like you're doing anything. You're doing it. You're going hard, as they say. But that doesn't always produce the best results, consequences. What would you say if you were to look back and examine that? What would be some of the key things you would say to an individual to watch for in their own journey that would prevent them from getting to a point where they crash and burn?
Yeah. Oh, thank you for asking that. Such a good question. I would say, number one, there are 4 key areas to pay attention to. And those areas would include your time and money freedom, your health and well-being, your relationships, and your vocation. So as an example, look at your vocation. And that doesn't have to just be a, quote, job. because vocation is the way we're called to serve in the world. If this is the way you're called to serve in the world, ask yourself, would I do this for free? When I wake up in the morning, do I have a sense of excitement about what it is I'm about to do, right? But then also ask yourself, do I have the capacity to set limits? Even though I love what I'm doing, can I set limits? Can I get off of work when I need to get off work, so that if I have other relationships that need tending, like a partner or children or parents, especially with COVID-19, am I able to set healthy boundaries, even though I might love what I'm doing, right? So then in the area of our relationships, are we able to see that we have a measure of healthy, life-giving, vibrant relationships? And what is my role in those relationships? There are 5 childhood roles that if we don't take a notice to, we'll live them out in adulthood. One of them is called the scapegoat. Everything gets dumped on me. Everything gets blamed on me. Now, this comes out of a dysfunctional family, but if we don't address this, we'll carry these relationship models into our adulthood. We'll apply them in all of our aspects of relationship. We'll apply them on our job. We'll apply them with our friends and in our family. The scapegoat is one. The hero is the other. That was the role I tended to, up until now, live in, as working, feeling like I had to save everybody and save everything, especially in the family, right? Then there is the mascot. The mascot is often that person in the family who uses humor to cover up for their anxiety, their fear, their pain, their shame, so forth. The other aspect of this is the lost child, okay? Am I acting like a lost child in the way that I operate in the world? And so we have to look at that. The last one, and I'm trying to remember it right quick. What is the last one? The hero, the mascot, the scapegoat, the lost child. When it comes back to me, I'll tell you what it is. But
well,
the
it's
reality
okay to
is,
save some of it for people to connect with your online seminar that's coming up. So.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for that. So if you want to know this, join me January 21st.
Got to check in.
That's wonderful. All right. So then the other area is in essence, in all of these areas, am I over giving? Am I doing all the giving? Am I finding places to replenish my own soul? Am I finding ways to engage in the things that give me life, that I really love? You see, it still really all goes back to the examiner. Am I doing things that give me life? And what I found out, and what happens to many of us, is we get caught up in one of these 5 childhood roles, these 5 childhood images from the dysfunctional family, and we end up selling our soul for our roles.
Wow.
Because the roles seem to be
really
more
something.
important. And so I want to ask people, when was the last time you did the thing that you really like to do? One of the things I hear men say a lot, I love fishing, right? Or I love playing basketball. And I'll say, okay, well, when was the last time you went fishing? And they'll say, it's been a while, maybe a year ago. Okay, well, if you say you love fishing, why aren't you engaging in that more often? Why are you saying yes to everything and everybody else but not saying yes to you? Because, Silver, one of the things I learned is when I say yes to you, I'm saying no to me. And so I have to be willing.
That's powerful.
And it has to be worth it to me. I've learned this now, that I have to, when I'm making that decision to say yes to you, I'm saying no to me. I'm saying no in that I'm taking time away from something that could be life-giving for me so that I can come and assist you, or so that I can be present to you, or whatever it is. But you have to have a framework. I never had a framework for knowing when I should say no. Thank you for the opportunity, but I won't be able to do that. And for me, wanting other people's acceptance and approval, it meant I was a yes girl. Just dump it on Juanita. She'll get it done. And it's going to be done right, too, because that's how she is.
That was a hard lesson for me, too, back in the day. It was. I completely understand that, and there's an art to saying no, and people, some will be offended, but others will be appreciative that you were just transparent and honest. But listen, your book is certainly, it sounds like, as I said earlier, it's going to be a blessing to the masses, and I'm excited about your seminar that's coming up in another, I think it's about 10 days from now. What can people expect to get from that? Let's talk about that briefly, and then I'd like for you to talk about any other upcoming events and how people can get registered.
Well, thank you. Well, they can register by going to JuanitaRasmus.com, and then I hope you could put the link up on your site and people could click on that.
I do.
It's an event.
It's there.
Great. Thank you. All right, so when they click that link, whether it's on your site or they go to Juanita, Juanita, Rasmus, RASMUS.com, or if they join me on social media, I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And so they can connect that way. But let me tell you a couple of things that people have said who attended the learning experience in November, because I did it in November. We also had one in August of last year. And one of the things that people said was, I don't feel stuck anymore. I felt stuck in my life. I felt my life was small, and I felt hopeless.
Wow.
There were people who said, I really feel like I can live now because I've been given freedom and permission to really live my best life. There were those who said, I have a clearer outlook on the next steps I need to take. There were those who said that one of the tools that I gave them helped them to understand that when it comes to visioning your life, you have to begin with the end in mind. So it's not about who you want to be in 2021, but who do you want to be in 2023? And then you work backwards to be the person you want to become in 2023. One of the things that a person said was that they realized that they needed to intentionally meditate. They needed to intentionally engage in some of the practices that I shared during the workshop, and how open toward the presence of God they felt, whether you name God Abba or Yahweh or however you may choose to name God. There is a divine presence that breathes us, and connecting with that presence can often empower you to live your best life. This one person said that they realized that they had lived a life of always giving and not wanting to receive. And so we did a practice around that, and understanding that all of life is an energy, and we operate off of an energy frequency. And so I talk about the map of consciousness and how all of our feelings fall somewhere on this map of consciousness. And that if we want change, we have to be open and willing to receive and to give love. What most of us do is we're open to give, not so open to receive. We set limitations on how love can come into our life. We have ideas about how we think love ought to show up. And so we try to break that down so that people will be open to the flow of love, because it's the flow that allows the fullness of life to be experienced and our capacity to dream more expansive lives. When I started planning the Learning to Be Experienced Visioning 2021, January of last year, the Spirit said to me, Juanita, you're playing your life too small. And I would say to many in your audience, you are playing your life too small. The divine lives in you. The scripture says in you, in the divine, we live and move and have our very being. And so much of what we need, we already have. But there are some beliefs that have to be shaken, uprooted, discarded, modified. so that we can live into the reality of being able to attain the life that God has longed for us to live.
Mm-hmm. One of the things this because
sure.
Go on with that after. I just want to mention this so that people who are listening, you know, I try to position myself both as a moderator and a listener, and self-discovery is a continuous journey. I was talking with someone just yesterday that I asked about a particular journey that was extremely painful, difficult,
right?
And I wanted to know how did you even get through that? And she said to me, it took a lot of time. It took a lot of therapy. Took a lot of discovering and forgiveness and all of that. So as people listen to you and as they do their coursework with you, it should be understood that this is not something where you flip the script overnight. And that journey may be difficult, but people should know that it is just one of the most rewarding places where you can land. When people can give you the responses that they did about what they got from it, oh my goodness, that was like the key opening up the door to the rest of who you can become, who you are, and where you're going in the the upcoming years. So I wanted to mention that so that people would know this is your where you're leading them is into such a great place in their self-discovery and their spiritual journeyhood. It's wonderful. So let's mention again that book.
Yes, the book is Learning to Be.
That book,
Finding Your Center After the Bottom Falls Off. It's out. It's available anywhere books are sold. You can get it on Amazon. It's published by InterVarsity Press, so you can get it there too. But you can get it anywhere books are sold. One of the things about this book, Sarah Jakes Roberts picked this up for her book club that she started this year, and she made Learning to Be the very first book. And so people who are in her Woman Evolved book club have just been giving me such good feedback from their experience. People have said they've had to read the book 3 times. There are people who are saying that they realize that this is not a book that you read and put down. This is a book that you keep coming back to as you allow yourself the experience of spiraling up into being your best self. And so when you say, Silver, that this is work, you're absolutely right. This book is like the curriculum. What we'll be doing on January, the 23rd, is the experience of working through the curriculum. And so I am just elated that this book has found so much favor and that people are getting out of it a transformative experience. And I just thank you for helping me to get it out into the world.
Oh, absolutely. I know you've been trying to make a final comment. Please go ahead and do that. I know I interrupted you.
Oh, no. I think we're both excited. I think we're both excited, I think if there was a final comment, I would say this. If there were 2 things that I would ask a person to do, besides, of course, getting the book and attending with me January the 23rd, I would say stop and notice what you're noticing. When you're moving through your day, don't just push feelings down. Don't just explode. Stop and name and notice what you're noticing. And then get quiet. Do the examine at the end of the day. Ask yourself what gave you life. What took life from you? If you say, well, I got into an argument again with John. Okay, so if you keep arguing with John, maybe it's time to consider talking to a therapist about communication skills or about the relationship skills. I am still in therapy. I have my therapist on speed dial because things still come up. And I have to say, oh, my God, I can't believe that came up. I'm still dealing with that? Absolutely, because we're still in the course called life. And we're all
yes.
learning to be.
Well, I want to thank you so much. It's been wonderful, delightful talking to you. I love your story. I love your purpose. And as I said earlier, it's going to be such a dynamic difference for people who get your book and who are able to attend the seminar, so online seminar experience. So thank you. God bless you. I'm so glad we connected. And,
I am too, Sylvia.
Thank
you for having me today.
Well,
and
it's a pleasure,
as you continue to bring insight and wisdom out into the world. So thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, I'll be back in touch. I will be online in the seminar as well, so I will look forward to connecting with you a little bit more down the line.
Great.
You enjoy your day.
Thank you. Likewise,
amazing.
You do the same, and I'll look to see you on the 23rd.
Absolutely. All righty. And thank all of you for hanging out with me today. I am so excited about what we talked about today. Learning to be, finding your center after the bottom falls out. I know a lot of you are experiencing some extremely challenging times right now. And, oh, gosh, all I can say is that, we will get through it. We will get through it. You keep pressing and you keep pushing, and you'll definitely get through it. Be sure you take advantage of Juanita Rasmus's book. Go to juanitarasmus.com and take a look around at what she's doing and what the plan is for the Learning to Be experience. It's happening on January 23rd, and you can get registered there today, right now. So be sure you check that out. I'm going to look forward to talking to you again in a few days. I mentioned my last show that I'm having Sunday Eunice come back. She talked to us before the COVID vaccine came out and started being administered. She is a renowned pharmacist and nutritionist, and she really keeps in the loop about all of this. She has some interesting insights that she shared about COVID-19 and how to stay healthy. So I hope you'll tune in for that. Sometime on Monday, we'll be talking about how the vaccine is making an impact. Those who are getting it, those who are not. So in the meantime, I hope you have the most amazing day. Look forward to talking to you then. You all be good, be blessed, be awesome, and stay safe.